Well, hello, DCO Nation, and welcome back to another DCO Live. It is Thursday night. Russell, how you doing, buddy? Hey, glad you made it tonight. There's a couple of things that I really want to touch on here tonight, but guys, remember this live is yours. So if you guys have any questions you want to throw out, go ahead and throw them out to me. The first thing is I don't have a guest tonight. This was one of the lag weeks. I didn't have anybody booked up, but I definitely have some topics that I want to go over. And I got some really great questions on my Instagram account in the last couple of weeks. And so I went up and I threw those up, and I'm going to touch on those. And then we'll get to the topic tonight, which is bad fishing days suck. So plan your trip the right way. So we're kind of be going over some pre-trip planning and kind of looking at the way that I look at things, when I'm about a week out when I go fishing. So Pisces, good to see you, buddy. Good to see you. Hopefully you can get out this weekend. I know you've been, wanting to get out there. So, but we'll definitely go over the weekend report too. Everett, good to see you. Boy, we got guys popping on now. So, all right, I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. You guys know that I like to keep it at about 30 minutes, and there's a lot of things that I want to get to here tonight. So, first question that popped into my Instagram was, where are some places to fish from the bank in Murrells Inlet? Well, unfortunately, there is not a lot of places to fish from the bank in Murrells Inlet. I can only think of really 3 places, and only one place is going to be a really good area to fish from. So let's start with the 2 that I have seen people fish in there, and I don't know if they ever catch anything. Hey, Gunnar, good to see you. Looks like you're going to be coming down soon. That's good. The weather's changing, so I think you hit it right at about the right time. So the 2 places fishing from the bank that I want to hit first. One, Morris Landing. There is like a little marsh walk area that you can stand and fish from. I have seen people fishing from there. I don't know if people catch anything from there. It's an end of a creek. It's next to the boat launch or the kayak launch right there. But that's one place that you can wet a line. The second place that I can think of is oyster recycling. Now, the one thing about oyster recycling is it is a boat ramp. There's a boat ramp area and it's a kayak ramp area. So if you do go down and fish that little sandbar area, just be aware that there is a lot of traffic turning around and backing up, and just try to stay out of that boat ramp area if you go and fish. But if you go to oyster recycling, you can go down all the way towards the right, and not a lot of people go down that way. And again, I have seen people fish there, but I don't know if people catch anything there. If you guys know that if the fishing is good from those 2 areas, let me know, throw it up into the comments. But the one place that you can fish from the bank, and that is the Murrells Inlet jetties. Now, you have to access the jetties from the state park, from Huntington State Park. You got to pay a fee, or if you have a state park pass, obviously, you can get in. But you go all the way up to the north end and you park at the north parking lot, and then you have to walk. I've paced it off many, many times. It's 1.25 miles one way. So it's 1.25 miles one way up to those jetties. Now, the fishing at the jetties is fantastic. Okay. So, I know it's a long walk, take your gear accordingly. But the fishing is fantastic up there. Okay. So the jetties is probably your best bet fishing from the bank in Murrells Inlet. There is just not a lot of places. It's developed up. It's private property. So again, if you guys know of any other areas, throw them up into the chat box so I can share them with everybody. The second question is, I'm heading down to Myrtle. How's the flounder fishing? Well, the flounder haven't really started to come in yet. Now, you can catch flounder in the inlet right now. There's probably not going to be a lot of size to them because those females are still offshore. They'll start pushing back into the inlet again, probably, I'm going to say, around that April time frame. So, that's kind of when those big flounder come in. Now, you can catch small ones, 14 inches. Those are the little males. The male flounder, they usually don't leave the inlets. It's just the big females. So, again, that's one of those questions that's kind of hard to answer in an Instagram post or a comment. But the big flounder will start coming in that April time frame once the water temperature really starts to hit, I'm going to say mid 60s. Could be earlier, could be a little later, but it's going to be that April mid 60s water temperature. And that's when you're really going to start seeing a lot of your bait fish move back in, the menhaden move back in. We're going to have some shrimp hatches, and that's when those big flounder are going to move back in. So I thought that was a great question. This was an odd question, but it's one thing that I don't really talk about. But the gentleman wanted to know, what fishing podcasts do I listen to? Well, outside of DCO Live on Spotify, the podcast that I listen to week in and week out, one is the Bite Me podcast. There are 4 guys out of Texas, and they are fantastic. I listen to them religiously, and they are great. I listen to Captain Matt Parrish. He's out of Texas also, and it's the Empty Stringers podcast. And he concentrates only on redfish. So if you guys are big red fishermen, and he breaks down redfish, and he is absolutely fantastic. Matter of fact, he is actually on my list to reach out to. I'd love to get him on DCO Live and pick his brain on redfish. Now, I know he's from Texas, but you know what? Redfish are redfish. They're going to act and move around the same way, whether they're in the Carolinas or Texas, Louisiana, Florida, whatever. So he is one that is on my list to reach out to, and I'd love to have him on. Another one that I listen to is Tackle Talk. I can't think of his name off the top of my head, but Tackle Talk is another one. It's a bass fishing podcast that I listen to. I listen to Kayak Weekly. I listen to the Bearded Dad. I think his is called the Yak Cast, I think, but it's the Bearded Dad. If you guys follow him on YouTube, I listen to his podcast. So guys, those are the ones that I listen to. I usually don't listen to any other ones. I will search topics and just kind of see what pops up. But again, one of those questions that I don't usually get all the time, and I thought I would throw up there. Go and check all those podcasts out. They're fantastic. The last question that I got was cleaning my kayak. How do I clean my kayak after I get out, get off the water? So I am not the best of staying up on cleaning my kayak. So when I do, I use something from a company called betterboats.com, and it's a desalt product. And basically I put it in like a little sprayer, and it sucks out or siphons out this desalt product as I'm spraying water. So I can take off all of that salt film off of my kayak, spray it down with some water, and it cleans it up fantastic. Now, Better Boats did send me that product for free. I did a little, I'm going to say, quote, commercial. I promoted their product once or twice, but I have bought that product several times over, even without being promoted. I think it's a great product, but any type of a desalt product to clean up your gear. I also spray down my rods and reels very, very lightly. And I mean, it's a fan spray up, down, and that is it. Just enough to just kind of knock that salt film off. And then I take these little micro fiber claws, and then I wipe down my poles and reels. And that's all I do. I have been running See, the same Daiwa Legalis reel now for almost 3 years. And outside of just oiling all of the moving parts, that thing still functions like new. So just some real easy maintenance on my gear. I keep it real simple, and I keep it simple on that kayak too. I just wipe it down, spray it down with that desalt product, and everything still works really well. Now, you're not going to keep everything from rusting, especially when you're in a saltwater environment. You're going to get, some things, some little buckles or whatnot. If they're not stainless steel, yes, they're going to rust. It's just the nature of the beast living on the coast. So, but that's all. That's all I really do. Russell threw something up there, and it said, "You did a video in the Huntington area. Are you going to do another one?" Yeah, it has been a long time since I did a jetty video. And I bet you I'm pushing 3.5 years since I've been up on the jetties. I need to go back up there and probably do another video on the jetties. And then Pisces said, um, would you fish the jetties in your kayak? The Merle's Inlet kayak, excuse me, the Merle's Inlet jetties. I have fished up there in my kayak only maybe, I think, twice that I can think of off the top of my head. I don't go up there. One, the currents and the tides are really strong when that water is moving. And you guys who know those jetties, it looks like a big funnel. And that's exactly what it does. It just sucks that water out. And, a kayak, you're just going to get pulled right out. Now, if you can kind of stay off into the wider areas of the jetties, I think you would be just fine. That's what I did. I fished those areas it was actually low tide the last time I was out there, and it was low tide, slack tide. So there wasn't any current, and I stayed in the bigger, wider area of the jetty. So yeah, no, I usually don't go up that way. There's a ton of boat traffic in and out of there. So I kind of stay away from the jetties in my kayak. So yeah, there's plenty of other places to fish without going up that way. So, yeah, I thought those were great questions. I wanted to throw them out there. Again, guys, if you have questions, throw them up into the chat box, and I'll get you up there, and we'll talk about them. But let's go into a little bit of a Mr. Gilmore, D. Gilmore, and I'm sorry, I can't remember what the D is for. I can't remember if it's Doug or Don, but he said. Almost got swept out in my kayak at the jetties. Not a fun time at all. Man, I can imagine. There's been some times where I wasn't in full control of my kayak, and yeah, I puckered a little bit. So I can imagine, almost getting swept out there in those jetties. So Don, yes, thank you. I apologize for that. So yeah, Don, I can definitely imagine the pucker factor if you think that you're getting swept out and you don't have control of your kayak. So yeah, man, yeah, that's why I just don't get up around that area. I just don't do it. So okay, let's kind of jump into the topic tonight. So it's basically pre-trip planning. So when I'm looking at going out, I'm a weekend warrior. I can't get out during the week right now. I have a job, so Monday through Friday, yes, I am working. So on Mondays, I'm already starting to look into the weekend. And the first couple of things that I do is just like every other guy, I live on my weather apps. I am checking the weather. I am seeing if it's going to rain, wind directions, how windy it's going to be. So those are the first things that I'm checking out. The next thing I'm checking is the tides. Okay. So where my tide's going to be. So weather first, and I am checking that weather every day, all the way up until the morning that I'm leaving. I'm still checking because you guys know as well as I do. You get up, everything changes. And then even when you get to your area, I don't know how many times I've been to Paulie's or down in Charleston, and the weatherman has got it wrong. He said there wasn't supposed to be any wind, and it's a 20-mile-an-hour wind. So, yeah, I'm checking it all the way up until the day I am putting my kayak in the water. So, weather, wind, and the tides are the first things that I'm tracking that stuff all week. Now, the tides, it's not going to change. So, wherever the tides are going to be pretty much on where it says on Monday, come Saturday or Sunday or whatever day you're going to go out, the tides are not going to change. So it's not going to be tracking low tide on Monday and then all of a sudden you get out on Saturday and it's going to be high tide. That's just not how it works. Okay. So, yeah. So, but I'm still looking at it all the time. I don't know why. I just am. I think my short-term memory is starting to get really poor. So I'm like, okay, so when was low tide again? Was it 11 o'clock? Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, there we go. So weather, then tides, then I can start to dive into where I want to start fishing. So my locations. So depending on the tides and the current, especially as a kayak fisherman, I don't want to have to fight currents in my kayak. So that's going to dictate where I'm going to go in the inlet. So, I may end up going south, I may end up going north, or maybe I'll go north and then peel off to another area because, I can get around the current and a little bit of some protected areas. And so, yeah, so then I really start to dive down. Probably come about Wednesday, I'm starting to look at where I want to go. And then wherever I start to find those locations, then I start really diving in and getting into what structure is nearby. Where do I think the fish are going to be holding? Are there going to be docks in that area? Are there deep holes in that area? Oyster bars, sandbars, mud bottoms, grass lines. I really start to dive down about 2 to 3 days before I go. And then come that Thursday, Friday, I keep diving it down, getting more specific the closer I get to the day that I go out. So when I go out Saturday morning, I have a plan A, plan B, plan C, and maybe even a plan D if things don't work out. If the weatherman gets it wrong, plan A may be out the window, and then I'm going right over to plan B. So I always have at least 3 to 4 areas that I want to hit before I even go out. That's my plan. That's what I usually do. So the more planning that you can do, the more success you guys are going to have on the water. And think about these locations and these tides. If the tide is dumping out, look at those creek mouths. Go to those creek mouths because all of that bait is going to be coming out. If it's a rising tide, you may want to look at pushing up onto the flats and fishing grass lines, or maybe even getting up into the grass and seeing if you can see some tailing redfish. Excuse me. So again, that whole tide is going to be, or that whole plan on following the tide may be your plan. So when you go out Saturday morning, your plan A may be, okay, it's low tide. I'm going to hit these areas, but halfway or 3/4 of the way through the day, the tide's going to be really high. So I'm basically going to fish my way to the flats and then fish the flats for a couple hours. So again, that's that plan A, plan B, plan C scenario that you guys, would want to put together to try to make sure that you have a really successful day out on the water. So, Pisces says, I have a plan F for fish. Yeah, man. Yeah. If every plan F worked out, you got it. I love it. Thanks. That's good. That's really good. So, if there's anything that you guys like, that you do for your um, pre-planning, throw it up there. I am setting up all of my gear probably about 2 days before. I'm checking all of my rods and reels so that Thursday night, Friday, I'm checking on my leader line. I'm getting all of my gear ready. A matter of fact, I have some lures that I'm going to be fishing with this weekend sitting right here that I'm going to be tying on probably tomorrow, and I'll dive into that here in a minute. But yeah, I make sure all of that stuff is ready, and then it's the only thing you need to do is load it in the truck, and I'm driving down the road. So that's pretty much my plan. So, guys, hopefully that was helpful for you. Again, if you guys have anything else that you guys do differently, let me know. Also, I get asked what weather app that I use, and I just use the ABC Channel 15 weather app, and that is Ed Piotrowski. He's one of our local weathermen. I think he's really good. I like their app. It's been very accurate for me. That's the one that I have on my phone. And then I also use the Storm Tracker WBTW, which is another local um, uh, television station down here, and I use their app. So I always try to use, a couple of different ones for the radar and to see how accurate all of these forecasts are. So those are the two weather apps that I use. I know I'm kind of jumping around and bouncing around a little bit, but I do get those questions about, what weather app do I use? I don't use anything like Windy. One, I'm cheap. Windy costs a lot of money. It's a good app. It's accurate, but again, the app that I use, Ed Piotrowski is very good. If he says it's going to be south southwest from 10, it's probably going to be pretty close. Is he wrong? Yeah, most weathermen are. So, but you got to have some kind of a trusted source, and those are the two that I use. So, okay, let's kind of hit the topic. The next thing I kind of want to talk about is the weekend. So, I don't know if you guys are going to be fishing the weekend, but the weekend fishing, this is kind of how it's shaping up right now. So Saturday, the lows, I'm looking at about 52 degrees, highs about 73. So temperature wise, that's really nice. That warm front is starting to push in here. But the winds on Saturday is going to be the thing you're going to need to watch. Right now, I'm seeing winds out of the west southwest out of 15 miles an hour. And as you guys know, once you get out on the water, you can probably add a few extra miles to that. So it's probably going to be, I'm going to say 15 to 18, because there's really nothing to stop that wind. It's just an open, barren land out there. And, the wind really starts whipping. So Saturday, it's going to be warm, but the wind is going to be whipping up. So if you do go out, definitely find some protected areas. Anything against that west side or west southwest side will be some protected areas, and you guys can jump on your maps and try to find those areas. So with it being warm like it's going to be and protected from the wind, that's probably where a lot of these fish are going to be staging up right now. So find some either protected areas from homes, docks, trees, tree lines, things like that. I would probably hit those first. And then on Sunday is looking like we're going to get some rain moving in. So Sunday, I saw like 50% chance of rain. The wind is going to be around 8 to 10 miles an hour, low 48, high 57. So Saturday looks like it's going to be a warm front, and then once that pushes on through, or excuse me, it's going to be ahead of a cold front. And then as soon as that cold front pushes through is what that rain is going to bring in. So that is your weekend weather report. And so here is what I have got tied on. So if I go out, I have been hearing that the redfish have been eating little small crabs like fiddler crabs. So I actually have a Z-Man kicker crab tied on, and I've got a 1/8 ounce bullet weight. And I think this is a Z-Man product, the bullet weight. But I am going to be fishing the kicker crab to see if I can't pick up some redfish on a crab imitation. And then also, I am going to be fishing this little stick bait that I got from Russell and Steak Baits. This is his Bourbon Ned. And Russell, I really appreciate it. I'm going to be fishing that this weekend. So it's a little stick bait. It looks like a little TRD. So it's probably, oh gosh, maybe 2.5 inches long. I'm going to put it on like a 1/8 ounce, maybe a football jig head, and get it right onto the bottom and drag it along. And this Bourbon Ned almost looks like a natural little shrimp. So I'm just going to drag him along the bottom and use him this weekend too. And then the Slim Swim. So the Z-Man Slim Swim, that's a 1/8 ounce trout eye from iStrike. And I'm going to be throwing the Slim Swim around. Again, you can see with all of this, they are small profiles. I'm not seeing a lot of big bait in the inlets right now. So you can see they're very small profiles. I'm not going big. I'm staying as light as I can with my weights and going finessey. That's how I'm going to go. I know Captain Bob a couple of weeks ago, he called me out as a finesse fisherman. And you know what? I guess I am. Especially right now, I'm trying to be more of a finesse fisherman and dragging these little bitty lures on the bottom. It really does work. So that's what I'm going to be throwing if I get out this weekend. My brother-in-law's coming into town, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to get out this weekend, but hopefully I can get out at some point. And because, March is a rough time for fishermen. It seems like, if it's not freezing cold, the wind is blowing. And that's probably the most frustrating part of March fishing. And March and probably going into April is the wind. And so if you can find good calm days, get out for a couple hours and not fight the wind, go and do that. So and then the last thing I want to talk about is what's going to be coming up on DCO Live in the next 3 weeks. So next week I have a guest coming on that I am really just super excited about. And it is Captain Tanya Dowdy. She is with Real Chica Charters, and she is absolutely fantastic. The first time I saw Captain Tanya was at the first Cast It Forward with Release Over 20. And that had to have been maybe about 3 or 4 years ago. And she was doing a seminar on, it was a women's panel on women in fishing. And she was just absolutely impressive. And I have been kind of following her, and I follow her on Instagram, and she is very responsive. I have dropped a couple of comments every once in a while asking questions like water clarity or, weights of lures, and things like that. And she always is very responsive. I know she's very busy, but I am super excited to have her come on next week. And then hopefully the week of March 20th, so Thursday, March 20th, I have been talking with Captain Jason Burton with Merle's Inlet Fishing Charters. And he was going to try to make it this week, but he ended up, he had a trip planned down to SeaWorld. Excuse me. So hopefully here in a couple of weeks, I can have Captain Jason on and, talk some Merle's Inlet fishing and, moving into that springtime. And then a gentleman that I reached out to about a week to 10 days ago, his name is Captain Brian Vaughn, and he is with Off the Hook Fishing Charters, and he is down in Hilton Head. I've been wanting to try to get um, a captain on from South Carolina, that Hilton Head, Beaufort area. And I've been following Captain Brian on Instagram for a while again, and he is just ripping in fish. So, guys, this next 3 weeks, I'm hoping everything works out right. I know Captain Tanya is going to be on. Captain Jason, I think I have him nailed down. Captain Brian, when I reached out to him, he said that he wants to come on, but he was in Mexico on vacation. So when I do have him on, we'll maybe talk some, hopefully talk about his Mexico trip and see how the fishing was down there. But guys, I hope you get back these next couple of weeks. Have your questions ready for them. I've already talked to them and said, this is the format. This is how it works. And they were all super excited to have you guys join in and ask questions and, talk March and early spring fishing. So those are going to be the topics really the next 3 weeks as we're moving into our springtime and into April. So guys, that is going to wrap it up for tonight. I really appreciate everybody coming on. I do still have some hats available. I think I have 3 hats left. So guys, if you want a hat, send me a message on Instagram and I'll actually discount the hat and you can save 15%. And if you message me, then we'll get hooked up and I will send you out a hat. Again, I have 3 left and I think they're all the light blue color. But guys, if you want a hat, hit me up. If not, that's all right too. Guys, I appreciate each and every one of you. I will see you guys next week and with Captain Tanya Dowdy. So guys, y'all enjoy, get out there on the water and catch yourself some fish. I will see you guys next week.